Hi folks, Job Comics here, having a look at an old, lost, forgotten run of comics, maybe not quite so lost and forgotten. This is the Doom Patrol, this is issue number 19, Crawling from the Wreckage, part 1 of 4, by fellow Scotsman Grant Morrison. Kinda at a time when he was breaking into comic books and he was, had some great ideas that he would arguably recycle a few times in his career. Luckily this Doom Patrol stuff, here was very fresh and very exciting, and he did that Alan Moore thing where he took on a book that was really struggling and didn't have much hope for a future, and he just suddenly discovered a new way of looking at the team and gave us some really weird and wild existential ideas. However, this first four-part arc, Crawling from the Wreckage, was a reconstruction as opposed to a deconstruction of the genre, and he tweaked and did some really interesting things with the characters. And this is way back in a time, before we used to hammer on about diversity and inclusion. DC Comics were doing it years and years and years ago, just because it was a good way of storytelling. Anyway, what brought me onto this? Look at this letters page. Good Lord, man. There's so many letters here, I can't believe it. So I was on my way home from work and the radio was on, and I was listening to a Radio 4, everybody, a Radio 4 from the BBC. I'm not a fan of the BBC, I'm afraid, but it's on the radio all the time, and it's either that or banal pop music with some stupid DJ presenter who just talks rubbish. So sometimes I put Radio 4 on, and just as I happened to put Radio 4 on, it was Woman's Hour, which is a very famous long-running show on the radio over here in the UK. It's been running for like 300,000 years, and it's women all talking about how wonderful other women are. Of course it is, and it's a very good programme. Who was on it? Jenette Kahn. Ring any bells? So here we are in 1989, and Jenette Kahn was on Women's Hour talking about comics. Yeah. And I thought, I remember Jenette Kahn. She used to do the publishorials in these sort of pre-Vertigo books. And she was talking about Wonder Woman, she was talking about all this kind of stuff. And I thought, God, that's quite interesting. And she was great. And she talked about how in the 80s, that DC was, really had a lot of good talent working for it. And they broke a lot of taboos at the time. And of course, Jeanette was on board when they were doing things like Watchmen and Hellblazer and Vertigo, and she was the publisher of the company. She does movies now. Apparently, she's in movie production. She does all that kind of stuff. But I thought, I'm going to dig out an old publisherial from Jenette Kahn, and she's here doing her Stan Lee bit, where it was I was out in the day over a Halloween party, and all reports made me envious that I wasn't there. And then I'm told that Mike Carlin had his head wrapped in toilet paper and came as the unknown soldier, and Marcia Rand, the newest employee on our block, had worn a Robin mask in a circle with a no slash through it. The entire production department has come, production head Bob Rozakis, and the entire marketing department had come as editor Mark Waid. Good Lord, how does one go to a Halloween party dressed as Mark Waid? It makes you wonder what Mark Waid was looking like. What twisted minds have conspired to bring such sick into the halls of DC? Who is responsible for the madness? Well, of course, everyone at DC participates and brings his or her own brand of lunacy to bear. But the blame for actually dreaming up events can be laid firmly at the feet of our current morale directors, Barbara Cassell and Ronnie Carlin. We haven't always had morale directors. Bob Rozakis, the grandsire of all future Murray directors that he thinks his reign dates back to 1985. When all of DC had a retreat at Great Gorge, the former Playboy Hotel in New Jersey. It was quite interesting, yeah. So she goes on to talk about, she's pretty much doing a Stan Lee here. She's saying, how DC would have these things. Remember Marvel used to do that whole, it's the bullpen, and you got the idea that they all worked together in this office and they all had great shenanigans. Well, that's exactly what Jeanette's doing here. So she's taken that idea and talking about the events they had. So the best event of all was at Thanksgiving dinner, which all 80 DC staffers contributed to. So everyone brought in food for others: sweet potatoes, homemade bread, stuffing, 6 kinds of apple pie. I supplied the turkeys, and we took over 2 rooms at the Warner Communications building and had a glorious 3-hour feast. This is an event that, with the exception of last year, has become an annual one. If you know of any place where we can have it this year, let us know. I mean, isn't it brilliant? Just Jenette Kahn doing this amazing kind of Stan Lee thing in the late 80s, right through the 90s at DC Comics, and producing absolute gems like the Doom Patrol with Grant Morrison, and of course Richard Case, who worked in this story for years and years and years and years. I remember Crawling from the Wreckage. I loved this when it came out. Later on, it did get super weird because Grant Morrison, I've met Grant Morrison, and he is a complete and utter weirdo. I don't mean that in a bad way. He might even watch this, I don't know. Maybe he sits in his castle in Dunoon and goes through old YouTube videos of people, nobodies like me, who are talking rubbish. But I tell you this, boy, could he write back in the day. Oh my God. And then it's incredible to think that, you know, he did this, then he did Man, then he did Arkham Asylum, and oh my God, talk about what output that guy had, was just phenomenal. However, at the helm of it all, hey, Jenette Kahn, and I heard her on the radio the day. Anyway, what's the point of this? I've got no idea. Just thought I'd bring it up for you guys to listen to. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, you can subscribe to the channel. See you on the next one. Go read Doom Patrol. You'll get these for like 50 cents in your 50 cents bin in the States. That's about £18 in UK money. So enjoy, and I'll see you soon.